In Act 1, Scene 3, I read it the other day, when Iago's talking to Roderigo and he keeps repeating, put money in thy purse. Do you remember that? Yes. Put money in thy purse. He keeps interrupting everything he says with that. So I wanted to quote Philip Thompson commenting on this. He says, two Solomons, two guides. And then he quotes Othello. Well, first he quotes the other one, but I'm going to read the Othello one first. Put money in thy purse, put but money in thy purse, fill thy purse with money, therefore put money in thy purse. If you excerpt those from the longer speech. And then he quotes Proverbs 4:5-7. Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. So those are the two poles, in a sense. Wisdom and understanding, promoted by biblical scripture, and Iago promoting put money in thy purse in the same kind of parallel way. And he's pointing out that Shakespeare hears this echo from Proverbs and is imitating it from the demonic point of view. Okay, that was just kind of a side note. Now, I want to start tonight and look at the scene. It's Act 3, Scene 3, in which Iago basically seduces the mind of Othello into his condition of vengeful jealousy. And you asked me before, how could he be so stupid so quickly? How could this happen? And this scene is the answer. It's a very long scene, and it's very complex. So I'm going to work us through it. I'm not going to read every line, but I'm going to read a lot. So I want to start at Cassio and Desdemona have been talking, and Desdemona is promising to speak to the Moor about reinstating Cassio.
Well, where are we?
We're in Act 3, Scene 3, line 35, let's say. So Desdemona says in goodbye, well, do your discretion, to Cassio, who doesn't want to face Othello, and exit Cassio. And Iago begins the whole thing by saying, ha, I like not that. Othello, what dost thou say? Nothing, my lord. So he doesn't say nothing, my lord, and then leave it, because Othello's going to say, oh, okay. So he says, nothing, my lord, or if I know not what. Was not that Cassio parted from my wife? He knows it was Cassio, and we know it was, and Iago knows it was. But Iago says, Cassio, my lord? No, sure, I cannot think it, that he would steal away so guilty-like, seeing you're coming. Now, he wasn't stealing away guilty-like, he was stealing away ashamed, right? Because he was drinking on the watch, and he got fired. But Iago is putting a spin on it. He's the great spin doctor. I do believe 'twas he. Desdemona, how now, my lord? And then she comes in and she says, Cassio was with me, and Cassio, I'm trying to argue for him. And she says about him, kind of important lines at line 48, if he be not one that truly loves you, that errs in ignorance and not in cunning, I have no judgment in an honest face. I prithee call him back. So she does have judgment and honest faith. Cassio is honest. He truly loves Othello, and he's erring in ignorance, because he got drunk because Iago twisted him into it, and not in cunning. Now we are in the presence of the man who is erring in cunning, that is intentionally lying and misleading and so on. So then she keeps repeating, thinking she's doing good to Cassio. Tomorrow night, on Tuesday morn, or Tuesday noon, or night, or Wednesday, when are you going to look to the Cassio question? And she says, what? Michael Cassio, line 70, that came a-wooing with you, and so many a time when I've spoke of you dispraisingly obtain your part? Why should it be so hard to entertain him again? So that tells us that Cassio was close to Othello earlier. That's why he hired Cassio instead of Iago. Prithee no more, says Othello, let him come when he will, I will deny thee nothing. Well, this is not a boon, this is just for your own good. I will deny thee nothing, he says. And then he tells her to go, and she goes. And she leaves saying, I am obedient, at line 89. Now, Othello says, excellent wretch. Wretch is we would call it a nickname, not a diminutive, what do you call it? A pet name, yeah, it's just an affection. He says, perdition catch my soul, but I do love thee. That is, let perdition, which is damnation, take my soul if I do not love you. And that is, though he doesn't know it, a precise prophecy, because it's exactly what happens. He does not love her enough or rightly, and perdition does catch his soul. And when I love thee not, he says, chaos is come again. And we will see that chaos in language that Shakespeare gives us in the last scene. My noble lord, says Iago. What dost thou say, Iago? Did Michael Cassio, when you wooed my lady, know of your love? He did, from first to last. Why dost thou ask? But for a satisfaction of my thought, no further harm. He uses the word harm. Why of thy thought, Iago? I did not think he had been acquainted with her. Oh yes, and went between us very oft. Indeed, says Iago. Now what's he doing?
He's planting seed.
Planting seed. Starting to tighten the screw. You hate him. You ought to hate him. But here's the challenge. By the end of this play, you have to learn to hate him inside, not just outside. That's what this is really all about. Okay, we'll see this. I did not think he had been acquainted with her. Oh yes, and went between us very oft. Indeed, I indeed. Discernst thou aught in that? Is he not honest? What's the word that's constantly associated with Iago? Honest. Honest, my lord? Honest, aye, honest. My lord, for aught I know. What dost thou think? Think, my lord, by heaven, thou echoest me, as if there were some monster in thy thought too hideous to be shown, which there is not a monster, huh? It's a calculated monster, and he's acting as if there's a monster on purpose. Thou dost mean something. I heard thee say even now thou likest not that when Cassio left my wife. What didst not like? And when I told thee he was of my counsel, in my whole course of wooing, thou criedst indeed, and didst contract and purse thy brow together. This tells the actor how he's got to do it for the audience to get it. But even if the actor doesn't do it, the words say it, and so we get it. And if thou then hadst shut up, as if thou then hadst shut up thy brain, in thy brain some horrible conceit. If thou dost love me, show me thy thought. My lord, you know I love you. I think thou dost. There's that word think again. And for I know thou art full of love and honesty, and weighs thy words before thou givest them breath. Therefore these stops of thine fright me the more. For such things in a false, disloyal knave are tricks of custom. But in a man that's just, they're close dilations, working from the heart, that passion cannot rule. So he's established this reputation of being honest and trustworthy. And so when he has suspicions and shows it, now it means something. That's what Othello's saying. So Iago says, for Michael Cassio, I dare be sworn I think that he is honest. I think so too, says Othello. No, I think. But look what Iago says now. Right. Men should be what they seem. Who's not being what he seems? Or those that be not, would they might seem none. Certain men should be what they seem. Why then, I think Cassio's an honest man. Nay, yet there's more in this. I prithee speak to me as to thy thinkings, as thou dost ruminate, and give thy worst of thoughts the worst of words. Out with it. Tell me what you're thinking. Good my lord, pardon me. Though I am bound to every act of duty, I am not bound to that. All slaves are free. Utter my thoughts? Why, I say they are vile and false. And where's that palace whereunto foul things sometimes intrude not? Who has that breast so pure, but some uncleanly apprehensions keep leets and law days, and in sessions sit with meditations lawful? Everybody thinks good thoughts and some bad thoughts. You can't make me tell you my bad thoughts. Othello, thou dost conspire against thy friend Iago if thou but think'st him wronged, and makest his ear a stranger to thy thoughts. I do beseech you, though I perchance am vicious in my guess, as I confess it is my nature's plague to spy into abuses, and oft my jealousy shapes faults that are not. This is true. It is precisely what he does, shapes faults that are not out of his jealousy, which is a subset of envy. I beseech you that your wisdom from one so that so imperfectly conceits would take no notice, nor build yourself a trouble out of his scattering and unsure observance. It were not for your quiet, nor your good, nor for my manhood, honesty, and wisdom to let you know my thoughts. What dost thou mean? Now watch what he says. Good name in man and woman, dear my lord, is the immediate jewel of their souls. Who steals my purse steals trash. 'Tis something, nothing. 'Twas mine, 'tis his, and has been slave to thousands. But he that filches from me my good name robs me of that which not enriches him and makes me poor indeed. Now, what is he planting into Othello's mind here? What matters?
Reputation.
Reputation.
Exactly the opposite
Good.
of what he had told.
Exactly right. Of Roderigo.
Oh, right.
Cassio, too.
Yeah.
So, Cassio, reputation. Oh, there's no sense in reputation. It's idle. It's nothing. Now, he says whatever he wants to say to get who he's after, right? Yes?
And it is modeling Cassio's response when he lost his job because he was drunk.
Correct. It's repeating what Cassio, but now he's trying to create that worry where before he was pretending to get rid of it. Okay, now, the reason that he's doing this is that this is Othello's vulnerable spot. What does Othello care about? His reputation, his name, his perfect soul. By heaven, I'll know thy thoughts, he swears. You cannot if my heart were in your hand, nor shall not whilst 'tis in my custody. Ha! And then he says, oh, beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster which doth mock the meat it feeds on. That cuckold, now he's introducing this idea. That cuckold lives in bliss, who, certain of his fate, loves not his wronger. But oh, what damned minutes tells he o'ertells means counts. Who dotes, yet doubts, suspects, yet soundly loves. That cuckold lives in bliss, who, certain of his fate, loves not his wronger. If you don't love the person wronging you, and you know what's happened, fine, you can live with being a cuckold. But what damned minutes tells he o'er, who dotes yet doubts? That is, he loves, but he's doubting his beloved. Suspects yet soundly loves. Othello, oh misery! Poor and content is rich, and rich enough. But rich as fineless is as poor as winter to him that ever fears he shall be poor. Poor and content is fine, and infinite riches might as well be poor for him who fears he will be poor. So your riches don't do you any good if you're afraid you're going to lose it. Good God, the souls of all my tribe defend from jealousy. Now, the use of the word tribe is really interesting. We'll come back to it when we get to the end of the play. But he keeps repeating this word, and it's a biblical word, and it's about, of course, the tribes of Israel and the tribe of Jews. Shylock had used the word my tribe, cursed be all my tribe if I forgive him. But by the end of this play, Iago's tribe is the tribe of the damned. Right? The tribe of demons. Why? Why is this? Says Othello. Think'st thou I'd make a life of jealousy? To follow still, meaning always, the changes of the moon with fresh suspicions? No. To be once in doubt is once to be resolved. Exchange me for a goat when I shall turn the business of my soul to such exsufflicate and blowed surmises, matching thy inference. 'Tis not to make me jealous, to say my wife is fair, feeds well, loves company, is free of speech, sings, plays, and dances. Where virtue is, these are more virtuous. Nor from mine own weak merits will I draw the smallest fear or doubt of her revolt, for she had eyes and chose me. No, Iago, I'll see before I doubt. When I doubt, prove. And on the proof there is no more but this: away at once with love or jealousy. Now, this sounds all very logical and reasonable. I'm not going to live in a state of doubt. If I doubt, I'm going to prove one way or the other. If I prove her false, away with love. If I prove her true, away with jealousy. What is the problem with this? Why is this a brilliant tactic of Iago? To be once in doubt is to be once resolved. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. Can you prove your innocence?
You can prove your lack of guilt, but you can never prove your innocence.
It's like proving a negative.
You cannot do it. This is why the entire American justice system is founded on the presumption of innocence until guilt is proven, right? When a jury comes to the judge, they never say, we find the defendant innocent. They always say, or they either say, we find the defendant guilty, or we find the defendant not guilty. In other words, his guilt has not been proven, because you cannot prove innocence. We had a perfect example of this with Justice Kavanaugh. Do you remember those hearings? So all of these accusations were flying all over the place. There was absolutely no way that he could prove that he didn't do these things. And the presumption in a lot of the press was, if he's being accused, it must mean he's guilty. And this was upending and overturning the rule of law that has to be based on logic and human tradition. So all he could do was go in and say, I'm innocent, this is how I've lived my life, I didn't do these things. And he was confirmed. Why? Because there was no evidence that came in against him. There was not one shred of real evidence. There was just this person said this and that person said that. So,
There was no
what?
The person was very credible.
It doesn't matter. The person didn't have evidence. And you cannot find a person guilty without proving that he's guilty.
But they also didn't do as thorough an investigation as...
Well, that may be, that's a matter of your judgment, and that's fine. We can disagree about that. My only point is that there is no way that he could prove his innocence. You can't do it. Right? You can't do it. You can't prove that you were here an hour early, that you weren't here an hour early. You can prove that you were here an hour early. You can prove that you killed the guy, DNA, photographs, testimony, observation, video, but you cannot prove that you weren't there. You've got to prove that you were somewhere else.
That's correct. However, if you have a jury and the majority of the jury decide that he's not guilty, he's out, and if he decides he's guilty, he's...
Well, we have a justice system that tries to approximate justice. My only point is...
There is no absolute innocence.
You can't prove it. You can't prove it. You can only prove guilt or not prove guilt, but you can't prove... So this is Othello's huge mistake right here. He is thinking, if he doubts Desdemona, he will either prove her innocent or prove her guilty. If he proves her innocent, away with jealousy. If he proves her guilty, away with love. But there's no way to prove her innocent. You can't prove that Cassio didn't sleep with her. If he did, you could prove that he did. But if he didn't, you can't prove that he didn't. So what is required in marriage and what is required in all human relations, just as in our justice system? The man is presumed innocent until proven guilty. In a marriage, there must be what?
Trust.
Trust. There's got to be trust. Otherwise, you live in Iago's mind. All right, so Iago says, away at once with love or jealousy, Othello said, and Iago says, I'm glad of this. That's good that you think like that. Why? For now I shall have reason to show the love and duty that I bear you with franker spirit. Now that I know that about you, I can tell you more what I'm thinking. Therefore, as I am bound, receive it from me. I speak not yet of proof. Well, of course, because there isn't any. Look to your wife. Observe her well with Cassio. Wear your eyes thus, not jealous, nor secure. Don't be jealous of her yet. I'm telling you not to. But don't be too sure. In other words, mistrust her. I would not have your free and noble nature out of self-bounty be abused. I don't want her to be cheating on you. Look to it. I know our country disposition well. In Venice they do let God see the pranks they dare not show their husbands. Their best conscience is not to leave it undone, but to keep it unknown. Dost thou say so? He's teaching him about Venice, because Othello's this foreigner, right? She did deceive her father, marrying you. And when she seemed to shake and fear your looks, she loved them most. And so she did, he says.
Isn't that shades of Brabantio saying the same?
Yeah. Why go to then? She that so young could give out such a seeming to seal her father's eyes up close as oak. Seal, S-E-E-L, means so shut the eyes the way you do the eyes of a falcon when you're trying to man the falcon, train the falcon to obey man. He thought 'twas witchcraft, that is Brabantio. But I am much to blame. I humbly do beseech you of your pardon for too much loving you. I'm saying all this because I'm so loyal to you. Othello, I am bound to thee forever. Another prophecy. A horrible one that comes true. I see this hath a little dashed your spirits. Not a jot, says Othello. In faith, I fear it has. In other words, I want it to. Yeah. I hope you will consider what is spoke comes from my love. But I do see you're moved. I am to pray you not to strain my speech to grosser issues, nor to larger reach than to suspicion. But that's the hell that he's inviting Othello into. Precisely that is the hell. Jealousy, suspicion, just the monster he's pretending to warn him against. I will not. Should you do so, my lord, my speech should fall into such vile success which my thoughts aim not. Cassio's my worthy friend. My lord, I see you're moved. No, not much moved. I do not think but Desdemona's honest. I don't think other than that Desdemona's honest. Long live she so, and long live you to think so. And yet, how nature, erring from itself. So now he's not knowing his wife. He is thinking, women's nature, it's fallible, it's frail, it's changeable. They're governed by the moon, not the sun. And before he even can say what he's thinking, Iago says, aye, there's the point. As to be bold with you, not to affect many proposed matches of her own clime, not to affect many proposed matches of her own clime, complexion, and degree, whereto we see in all things nature tends. One may smell in such a will most rank, foul disproportions, thoughts unnatural. He's planting these ideas about Desdemona in the mind of Othello. But pardon me, I do not in position, meaning in proposing this, distinctly speak of her. Though I may fear her will, recoiling to her better judgment, may fall to match you with her country forms, and happily repent. Farewell, farewell. If more thou dost perceive, let me know more. Set on thy wife to observe. Leave me, Iago. My lord, I take my leave. He doesn't really go. Othello, why did I marry? This honest creature doubtless sees and knows more, much more, than he unfolds. Just what Iago wanted him to think. Iago returns, my lord, I would I might entreat your honor to scan this thing no farther. Don't think about it anymore. Leave it to time. Although 'tis fit that Cassio have his place, for sure he fills it up with great ability. Yet if you please to hold him off a while, Why is he saying that? Because what's he been telling Cassio to do to get his job back? Go talk to Desdemona. And Desdemona is going to plead with Othello for Cassio. So Iago says, if you please to hold him off a while, you shall by that perceive him and his means. Note if your lady strain his entertainment with any strong or vehement importunity. Note whether she is importuning you, begging you to restore him. Much will be seen in that. In the meantime, let me be thought too busy in my fears, as worthy cause I have to fear I am, and hold her free, I do beseech your honor. That is, treat her as innocent. Othello, fear not my government. So the government, he means, don't be afraid of my government of this situation and of myself. Now the government of the self can be given into the hands of the body, the passions, the reason. Remember when he sent Iago off and put the ship and the pilot and his riches in Iago's hands? And very early on, he put Desdemona herself in his hands. So fear not my government. Well, we fear his internal government. I once more take my leave, and he goes out. Now, Othello's soliloquy. This fellow's of exceeding honesty and knows all qualities with a learned spirit of human dealings. I trust him. Wrongly. If I do prove her haggard, meaning unfaithful to me, though that her jesses were my dear heartstrings, I'd whistle her off and let her down the wind to prey at fortune. If I think she's betrayed me, the hell with her. Haply, that is perhaps, for I am black and have not those soft parts of conversation that chamberers have, people who, who hang around chambers instead of the army battles, fields. Or for I'm declined into the vale of years, yet that's not much. She's gone. And maybe she's gone. Maybe she's betrayed me. I am abused, and my relief must be to loathe her. Oh, curse of marriage, that we can call these delicate creatures ours and not their appetites. We can call the creatures ours, but we can't call their appetites ours.
Isn't he doubting?
Yes.
Because he's older, because he's another?
He's black, he's another, he's old, but not that old.
Right.
Maybe she's betrayed him. Where's his faith in her?
He's already decided.
Oh, curse of marriage. Sorry, I read that. I had rather be a toad and live upon the vapor of a dungeon than keep a corner in the thing I love for others' uses. Yet 'tis the plague of great ones. Prerogatived are they less than the base. 'Tis destiny unshunnable, like death. Even then this forked plague is fated to us when we do quicken. So great ones are fated to have their wives become unfaithful to them. He's the great one.
So let me get this straight. They've been married for like 3 days or however long.
3 days or 3 months.
Or 3 months, not very long.
Right.
They've barely gotten together.
And he's already doubting her.
Yeah, and so why would she jump through all those hoops to marry him? And
if she were going to betray him.
yeah, and blow off the dad.
So you see my psychomachia idea. There's Desdemona, to whom he should be faithful because she's good and deserves it. And there's Iago, putting this poison in his ear. Now, she's not coming and nagging him to be...
She is about Cassio.
But she is about Cassio. But Iago set that up so that every time she asks about Cassio, it goes against her. Okay, look where she comes. Enter Desdemona. He looks at her. And then he says, if she be false, so then heaven mocks itself. Then heaven mocks itself. I'll not believe it. Good. He sees her and he recognizes that's ridiculous. Why do you speak so faintly? Are you not well? She says, I have a pain upon my forehead here. What does that mean? Horns. The cuckold's horns are starting to grow. Now, what about cuckold's horns? Have we talked about this? So the idea is, that it runs throughout European history. the man whose wife has slept with someone else is said to grow horns on his head, which he cannot see, but everyone else can. Meaning, everyone knows his wife is unfaithful to him, but he's the last to know. You've all seen photographs of kids from school where one kid is doing this behind the head of the other. What he's saying is, he doesn't know he's saying that. He thinks it's bunny ears. That's what they're taught in kindergarten. He's saying, I'm sleeping with this guy's wife and he doesn't know it. He's got
In
horns.
Spanish, they still use that expression.
What?
Ponerle los cuernos.
Yeah.
You know, that means your wife's cheating on you.
Sure. I have a pain upon my forehead here. Faith, that's with watching, meaning not sleeping. So she takes her handkerchief to bind his head. And he says, leave it alone, and it falls to the ground. He doesn't care about this handkerchief at the moment. It's just a handkerchief. He's given it to her, so what? She tries to bind his head, drops on the floor. Amelia comes in and picks it up and says, look, it's my husband. He wants this. He's asked me for it before. So here's the time. Like, he's asked for it many times. Well, this is not today. This is for weeks. So Iago comes back in with Amelia. He's talking to his wife, and they make puns on the word thing, which is a sexual innuendo to have a foolish wife. Anyway, he takes the handkerchief from her and says, don't acknowledge it. And then he says, I'm going to lose this napkin in Cassio's lodging. And he says at line 322, trifles light as air are to the jealous confirmation strong as proofs of holy writ. If you change the word suspicious from jealous to suspicious, you get the Kavanaugh problem. Trifles light as air are to the suspicious confirmation strong as proofs of holy writ. Now that's a strong proof because in Shakespeare's time, holy writ was proof. If you could cite scripture, that wasn't just your opinion, that was authoritative. In the same way as if you could cite Aristotle, it was authoritative. We don't think that anymore. We think, oh, who the hell does Aristotle think he is? And why should I believe the Bible? It's all about me and my own opinion. That's the modern world of, individual liberty and responsibility. It's all on us. We don't have authorities. We question every authority because we don't have any ground to stand on. But Shakespeare wasn't in that condition yet. And so Holy Writ was authoritative. But now trifles light as air are to the jealous confirmation strong as proofs of Holy Writ. All right, enter Othello. And Iago says about him at line 329, 330, look where he comes. Not poppy, nor mandragora, nor all the drowsy syrups of the world shall ever medicine thee to that sweet sleep which thou owedst yesterday. No drug is going to allow you to sleep comfortably again. You've been had by jealousy. And he comes in and he says, ha, ha, false to me? Why, how now, General? No more of that. Avaunt, be gone. Thou hast set me on the rack. That's a torture device. I swear 'tis better to be much abused than but to know it a little. It's better to have your wife unfaithful to you and not know it than to know it a little. Well, how can you know it a little? You either suspect or you know. How now, my lord? What sense had I in her stolen hours of lust? I saw it not, thought it not, it harmed not me. I slept the next night well, fed well, was free and merry. I found not Cassio's kisses on her lips. He that is robbed, not wanting what is stolen, let him not know it, and he's not robbed at all. If you don't know they've taken it from you, and you don't miss it, you're not robbed. I'm sorry to hear this. No, he's not. I had been happy, he says, Othello, if the general camp, pioneers and all, pioneers are the diggers of mines and undermines and so on. It came to mean the builders and the constructors of the things for the army. So the workers, in other words. I had been happy if the general camp, pioneers and all, the lowest workers, had tasted her sweet body, so I had nothing known, as long as I didn't know it. Oh, now forever, farewell the tranquil mind, farewell content, farewell the plumed troops and the big wars that makes ambition virtue. His ambition turned to virtue because of war. Oh, farewell, farewell the neighing steed and the shrill trump, the spirit-stirring drum, the ear-piercing fife, the royal banner, and all quality, pride, pomp, and circumstance of glorious war. That's what he likes about having been so successful in war. Pride, pomp, and circumstance of glorious war. And oh, you mortal engines whose rude throats the immortal Jove's dread clamors counterfeit, farewell, Othello's occupation's gone. The mortal engines are the cannon that imitate Jupiter's thunder. Othello's occupation's gone. Is it possible, my lord? Now he turns to Iago. Villain! Should have said that earlier. Casting suspicions on my wife? Damn you, out of here. No, he says, villain, be sure thou prove my love a whore. Be sure of it. Give me the ocular proof, or by the worth of mine eternal soul, which is going to be in question at the end of this play, thou hadst been better have been born a dog. Thou hadst been better have been born a dog than answer my waked wrath. Iago, is it come to this? Make me to see it, or at the least so prove it that the probation bear no hinge nor loop to hang a doubt on, that is beyond a reasonable doubt. Or woe upon thy life, my noble lord, if thou dost slander her and torture me, never pray more. Has Iago prayed? No. Abandon all remorse. That's what it says on the gates of hell. It says actually abandon hope. On horror's head, horrors accumulate. Do deeds to make heaven weep, all earth amazed. For nothing canst thou to damnation add greater than that. True enough, but it is what he's doing. But Iago pretends to be victimized now. Oh, grace! Oh, heaven, forgive me! Are you a man? Have you a soul or sense? God by you, take mine office, take my job away from me. Oh, wretched fool, talking to himself, that loves to make thine honesty a vice. Oh, monstrous world, take note, O world, to be direct and honest is not safe. I thank you for this profit, and from hence I'll love no friend, sith love breeds such offense. This is the thanks I get for being honest with you. Nay, stay, says Othello. He's totally persuaded. Thou shouldst be honest. I should be wise, for honesty's a fool and loses what it works for. By the world, that is, I swear by the world, I think my wife be honest, and think she is not. I'm of two minds. I think that thou art just, and think thou art not. I'll have some proof. My name, now watch this. My name, that was as fresh as Diana's visage, the visage of the goddess Diana, chaste goddess Diana, is now begrimed and black as mine own face. I was in reputation perfect, and now my reputation is black. If there be cords or knives, poison or fire or suffocating streams, I'll not endure it. Would I were satisfied. If there's any instrument of murder, I will not endure to have my name begrimed like this, but I want to be satisfied. I want to know for sure. Yeah.
So my version says her name, but I guess either works.
Yes. Her name. So this is the difference in the two texts. Remember we talked about quarto and folio? So her name, but his name, I think it's his. But it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
because her name is his name now. I see you are eaten up with passion, says Iago. I do repent me that I put it to you. You would be satisfied? Would, nay, and I will. And may, but how? How satisfied, my lord? Would you, the supervisor, grossly gape on, behold her topped? Now, what's he doing to Othello's mind?
He's putting the image.
He's putting the image in his mind. Exactly right. Death and damnation.
He said he wanted ocular proof.
Yeah. But now he's giving him, the image of it in his mind.
Right.
Iago, it were a tedious difficulty, I think, to bring them to that prospect. It's pretty hard to arrange for you to actually see them screwing in the bedroom. Damn them then. If ever mortalized, you see them bolster more than their own. Nobody's going to see it but them. What then? How then? What shall I say? Where's satisfaction? It is impossible you should see this. Were they as prime as goats, as hot as monkeys, as salt as wolves in pride, and fools as gross as ignorance made drunk. So he's giving all these images of them. But yet I say, if imputation and strong circumstances, which lead directly to the door of truth, will give you satisfaction, you might have it. Give me a living reason she's disloyal. I do not like the office, but sith I am entered in this cause so far, pricked to it by foolish honesty and love, I will go on. I lay with Cassio lately and being troubled with a raging tooth. Then he tells this whole story, totally making it up, about Cassio sleeping, dreaming of Desdemona, putting his leg over Iago's leg in bed, and so on. Monstrous, monstrous. Nay, but this was but his dream, line 428. But this denoted a foregone conclusion. 'Tis a shrewd doubt, though it be but a dream. So who's telling him this? The same Iago that's been telling him everything all along. It's all a fabrication, and he's believing it. And then Iago says, and this may help to thicken other proofs that do demonstrate thinly. There aren't any other proofs. There aren't any proofs.
Well, he's going to claim the handkerchief.
He's going to claim it. But before that, Othello says, I'll tear her all to pieces. Nay, yet be wise, says Iago. Yet we see nothing done. She may be honest. Tell me but this. Have you not sometimes seen a handkerchief spotted with strawberries? Where is that handkerchief right now? In his pocket. If it be that or any that was hers, it speaks against her with the other proofs. What other proofs? It's all his words. Now Othello's furious. Oh, that the slave had 40,000 lives. One is too poor, too weak for my revenge. For my what? Revenge. Now do I see 'tis true. What's made him see it? There isn't anything. He hasn't even seen the handkerchief.
He's seen it all up here.
What? Yeah, exactly, in his head. Look here, Iago. All my fond love thus do I blow to heaven. 'Tis gone. I'm done with Desdemona. Arise, black vengeance, from the hollow hell. Yield up, O love, thy crown and hearted throne to tyrannous hate. Swell bosom with thy fraught, for 'tis of aspics' tongues. Iago, let yet be content. Oh, blood, blood, blood. Patience, I say. Your mind may change. Never, Iago. Like to the Pontic Sea, whose icy current and compulsive course ne'er feels retiring ebb, but keeps due on to the Propontic and the Hellespont. Okay, the Black Sea empties into the Mediterranean through the Pontic Sea and the Propontic and the Hellespont. Even so my bloody thoughts with violent pace shall ne'er look back, ne'er ebb to humble love, till that a capable and wide revenge swallow them up. And he kneels to swear, now by yond marble heaven, in the due reverence of a sacred vow, I here engage my words. Sacred vow. for revenge. What can be sacred about revenge? But Iago says, do not rise yet, and he kneels next to him. So they're both kneeling next to each other. And Iago says, witness, you ever-burning lights above the stars, you elements that clip us round about, earth, air, fire, and water. Witness that here Iago doth give up the execution of his wit, hands, heart, to wronged Othello's service. I'm giving up everything I've got to the service of wronged Othello. But who has wronged him? He has. Let him command, and to obey shall be in me remorse. What bloody business ever. Like, I'll feel sorry for the victims. I will, punishing them will be as much remorse as I feel for them. So this is a wedding. This is a wedding ceremony. A black, dark, horrible commitment, vows of commitment to each other.
Sacred vow.
Sacred vows. And it's as if Othello has just divorced Desdemona and married Iago. They rise. Othello, I greet thy love not with vain thanks, but with acceptance bounteous, and will upon the instant put thee to it. Within these 3 days let me hear thee say that Cassio's not alive. My friend is dead. 'Tis done at your request. But let her live. Damn her, lewd minx. Damn her. Come, go with me apart. I will withdraw to furnish me with some swift means of death for the fair devil. Now art thou my lieutenant. And Iago says, I am your own forever. And that's true. Okay, what happened here? The beginning of the scene, he loves his wife. The end of the scene, he's going to kill her. And Cassio. Yeah, and Iago got his job. Not that he cares about his job so much, but he's fine.
Cassio's going to be killed.
Cassio will be killed. Desdemona will be killed. Othello will have his revenge, supposedly.
And Othello will self-destruct. I mean, he's also out for Othello's destruction.
Of course, that's going to happen. We'll see it. But what has happened in the mind of Othello? Why do I keep saying Iago is a demon? Because that kind of reasoning, those kinds of suspicions that come to us from our own minds, what mind is there that doesn't have negative thoughts sometimes? That devil rises up within and tempts us to think. And the error is to betray and not to have faith in what he knows to be true. So Philip says about Othello, he can reason about Desdemona, not in the sense of collecting facts, but in the sense of keeping faith with the beautiful and faithful spirit he knew and should know her to be. He cannot keep faith with her. He is seduced into jealousy, suspicion. And why? What is the the aperture through which Iago sticks that sharp knife into Othello's mind? What does he use? He uses his ego, his pride. It's his name that he's worried about. It's his reputation that he's worried about. That's the weakness. He's using that weakness, which we have seen in him from the beginning, hinted at. It's just like in Hamlet, where Hamlet says, would I had met my dearest foe in heaven, or ever I'd seen that day, Horatio. That is the dram of evil in Hamlet's soul that is played on later when he makes his great error. And it's that in him that has to be corrected. And in Othello, it's this pride of self, pride of judgment. His solution to any problem has been what? For all of his life, since he was 7 years old? Fight and kill. You kill the enemy, you're done. Well, who's the enemy now? Thanks to Iago, he thinks it's Desdemona. He thinks it's Cassio. So, kill them. Yes?
So the irony I see is that Iago says, I'm your own forever. Well, it's just the opposite.
Othello is his forever. Well, but that sounds like a marriage vow, right? Each is the other's forever. I am your own forever. And the thing is, it is the seal of damnation, except that Othello still has an opportunity to make a different choice, and we're going to see that. Okay, so let's move forward. I've got lots of little bits of things to show you, and then we're going to read the last scene. Act 3, Scene 4, we get evidence of how Desdemona is the positive angel, the good soul. Act 3, Scene 4, line, let's say, 147. She's talking to Emilia. Othello has expressed anger or at her already. I'm not going to read all those scenes. But she forgives him by saying this in the middle of her long speech. Nay, we must think men are not gods, nor of them look for such observancy as fits the bridal. Beshrew me much, Emilia. I was, unhandsome warrior as I am, arraigning his unkindness with my soul. But now I find I had suborned the witness, and he's indicted falsely. She was upset that he was mistreating her, but now she's blaming herself and not him. She forgives him. I can't hold him to the standard of gods. So she is this forgiving soul.
It's actually interesting because that's the exact opposite of what Amelia says. She blames, men for the...
And watch how she does it in this next speech. Emilia says, pray heaven it be state matters as you think, and no conception or jealous toy concerning you. Alas the day, she says, I never gave him cause. And Emilia says this, very important speech. But jealous souls will not be answered so. They are not ever jealous for the cause, but jealous for their jealous. It is a monster begot upon itself, born on itself. And this is a perfect description of Iago and of jealousy. It's not, people don't fall into jealousies because of cause. Obviously, if there's cause, they may become jealous. But if there's no cause, they can still become jealous. It's a monster begot on itself. Heaven keep that monster, the monster from Othello's mind. Too late. Okay. Let's go to Act 4, Scene 1. It's the scene where Iago sets it up that Othello is eavesdropping on Cassio with Bianca, his mistress or courtesan. And he's smiling and laughing because Iago has got him to talk about Bianca with Othello watching. But he's telling Othello that he's smiling and laughing about having slept with Desdemona. So it's all apparent ocular proof, but it's all a misreading, of course. Did you see the handkerchief? Was that mine? Yours, by this hand. I would have him 9 years a killing, says Othello. So I'm in Act 4, Scene 1, line 178. Aye, let her rot and perish and be damned tonight, for she shall not live. No, my heart is turned to stone. I strike it, and it hurts my hand. Oh, the world hath not a sweeter creature. She might lie by an emperor's side and command him tasks. Nay, that's not your way. Don't think about how great she is. Hang her, says Othello. I do but say what she is. And then a few lines down, the pity of it, Iago, the pity of it. He's feeling sorry about it. And Iago says, if you are so fond over her iniquity, give her patent to offend. For if it touch not you, it comes near nobody. If her sleeping with Cassio doesn't bother you, it shouldn't bother anybody else. And Othello's response is, I will chop her into messes. Cuckold me! That's what it's about. Not confront her, give her a chance to repent. I will chop her into messes. And Iago says, strangle her in the bed, even the bed she hath contaminated. And Othello says, good, good, the justice of it pleases, very good. The justice of it. Strangle her in the bed in which she has slept with Cassio. Except she hasn't slept with Cassio. She's only slept in that bed with Othello. So he's going to strangle her in his own bed. Basically strangling his own good angel in his own bed. All right, at the end of the scene, Lodovico sees him misbehaving. She can turn and yet go on and turn again. He's just abusing her in public. Lodovico is shocked. Is this the nature whom passion could not shake, whose solid virtue the shot of accident nor dart of chance could neither graze nor pierce? Is this the famous general Othello? Iago, he's much changed. Lodovico, are his wits safe? Is he not light of brain? And Iago says, he's that he is. I am not what I am. He's that he is. He's what he is. Well, he's what he is, plus Iago making him what he's become. All right, now, Emilia. Just to show you that, well, let's see. Emilia says to Othello in Act 4, Scene 2, line 12, I durst, my lord, to wager she is honest. Lay down my soul at stake. I would bet my soul that she's not disloyal to you. If you think other, remove your thought. It doth abuse your bosom. If any wretch have put this in your head, and we know who has, let heaven requite it with the serpent's curse. Who's the serpent?
Devil.
The devil. Lucifer, in the form of the serpent, in the garden. Cursed for all time because of seducing man into the original sin. So let heaven pay this creature back with the curse of the serpent. For if she be not honest, chaste, and true, there's no man happy. The purest of their wives is foul as slander. And then Othello says, at line about 47, had it pleased heaven to try me with affliction, had they rained all kinds of sores and shames on my bare head, steeped me in poverty to the very lips, given to captivity me and my utmost hopes, I should have found in some place of my soul a drop of patience. So I'm going to remind you what patience means. From the Latin verb patior, to bear or suffer. The willingness to bear affliction. Not just willingness to wait, willingness to undergo out of humility. So I could have been patient to suffer all these afflictions. But alas, to make me the fixed figure for the time of scorn, to point his slow and moving finger at, everybody to point at me and make fun of me like this. That's what he can't bear. And yet he says, yet could I bear that too? Well, very well. But there where I've garnered up my heart, where either I must live or bear no life, the fountain from which my current runs or else dries up, to be discarded thence, or keep it as a cistern for foul toads to not engender in. Turn thy complexion there, patience, thou young and rose-lipped cherubin, you angel, and here look grim as hell. Patience, no more patience. Can't be patient with that. Now, who is doing the discarding? You see all the levels of irony here. I hope my noble lord esteems me honest. Oh, aye, as summer flies are in the shambles, that quicken even with blowing. Thou weed, etc. He calls her names. By heaven you do me wrong, she says. Are not you a strumpet? No, as I'm a Christian. Okay. Go to Act 4, Scene 2, line 130. He has been accusing her of all this stuff, called her whore. Emilia says, I will be hanged if some eternal villain, some busy and insinuating rogue, some cogging, cousining slave to get some office have not devised this slander. I will be hanged else. I swear. Well, she's describing him perfectly. He's an eternal villain.
She doesn't realize it until she sees the handkerchief.
Till later, right.
Yeah.
But the thing is, do you see Shakespeare constantly building in this imagery of the demonic aspect of Iago? Fie, he says, there is no such man. It is impossible. If any such there be, says Desdemona, pardon him. And later, she's going to say, she's going to pardon her husband for killing her. Emilia doesn't accept it so easily. A halter pardon him, and hell gnaw his bones. Why should he call her whore? And she goes on. Such a squire he was that turned your wit to see me side without and made you to suspect me with the Moor. Because she didn't sleep with Othello. All right. She says, Desdemona says, line 151. Here I kneel. If e'er my will, so remember, there's kneeling going on. We saw that hellish marriage before, the wedding, and now she kneels. If e'er my will did trespass against his love, either in discourse of thought or actual deed, or that mine eyes, mine ears, or any sense delighted them in any other form, or that I do not yet, and ever did, and ever will, though he do shake me off to beggarly divorcement, love him dearly, comfort forswear me. May I be abandoned by all comfort if I haven't been true to him. Unkindness may do much, and his unkindness may defeat my life. Now she recognizes that he might kill her. But never taint my love. I cannot say whore. It does abhor me, now I speak the word. To do the act that might the addition earn, not the world's massive vanity could make me. She's innocent, and we know it. Okay. Go to Act 4, Scene 3. Just so you know, I'm not a complete anti-feminist. I want to quote Emilia's great speech about the mistreatment of women. This is kind of the idea of the name of my course this time, right? Shakespeare in Defense of Good Women. And this is the accusation against the way bad men mistreat good women. There's no such woman that would betray her husband to gain the world. And Emilia says, yeah, there are probably a dozen, and as many to the vantage as would store the world they played for. Lots of women would do it. But, she says, I do think it is their husbands' faults if wives do fall. Say that they slack their duties and pour our treasures into foreign laps, or else break out in peevish jealousies, throwing restraint upon us, or say they strike us, or scant our former having in despite, that is, take away what is coming to us. Why, we have galls, and though we have some grace, yet have we some revenge. Okay, this is Iago's wife. She's not Desdemona. She's not a saint like Desdemona. But there's some justice to her words. Let husbands know their wives have sense like them. They see and smell and have their palates both for sweet and sour as husbands have. What is it that they do when they change us for others? Is it sport? I think it is. And doth affection breed it? That is the passion of the heart, not reason. I think it doth. Is it frailty that thus errs? It is so too. In other words, not only women are frail, but men are frail, morally. Have we not affections, desires for sport, and frailty as men have? Then let them use us well. Else let them know the ills we do, their ills instruct us so. So all that weight of social pressure on the woman to be chaste and keep men from being unchaste in order to preserve society and so on, say no until marriage, until commitment, until support and all that, that's all true. But what Amelia is saying is men also are frail. They also have faults. And husbands are responsible for their wives. If the husbands misbehave, don't blame the wives for imitating them. In other words, that hierarchy of good depends on the goodness of both people. The wife has to be faithful, but the husband has to be also. And the husband has to set a good example for his wife, and as well as care for her and protect her and all the rest. So, let them know the ills we do, their ills instruct us so. And Desdemona answers by saying, not blaming the husband. Good night, God me such uses send, not to pick bad from bad, but by bad mend. So she's from the point of view, I'm not going to learn bad behavior from the bad behavior of my husband. Rather, I'm going to use whatever he's done as a lesson for myself to become better. This is the good angel speaking. All right, the next scene. At line 17, or 18, he's talking about Roderigo killing Cassio, or else Cassio killing Roderigo. It doesn't matter which, but I got to get rid of Cassio one way or the other. Why? If Cassio do remain, do you see where I am? Line 17, 16, 17, line 18. Act 5, Scene 1, line 18. In the middle of Iago's speech. He says, if Cassio do remain, he hath a daily beauty in his life that makes me ugly. Oh, okay, let's just close it. Sorry. I don't know why they've been let loose from downstairs. They should be singing, but they're talking. Okay. If Cassio do remain, he hath a daily beauty in his life that makes me ugly. And besides, the Moor may unfold me to him, that is, reveal, and there stand I in much peril. No, he must die. Now, what does that mean? He has a daily beauty in his life that makes me ugly. What's the moral quality that expresses? Envy. It is the essence of envy. Because he's beautiful, I look ugly.
But he's also afraid he's going to be found out.
Yeah, that's the next sentence. That's true. But that essential moral poison of the deadly sin of envy is the essence of Iago's being. That's the eternal villain that he is. Okay, now, this is Othello's last speech before he comes in to kill Desdemona. He hears, murder, murder, I am named forever, says Cassio. So yeah, good, Iago's killing Cassio, or somebody is, that's fine. We're in Act 5, Scene 1, line 31. And Othello says to himself, O brave Iago, honest and just, that hast such noble sense of thy friend's wrong. Thou teachest me. You're setting me a good example. You're killing Cassio. Now I know what to do. And then he speaks as if to Desdemona. Minion, your dear, so Minion is a strumpet, right? The darling of Cassio, Desdemona. Your dear lies dead. Your dear Cassio lies dead. And your unblessed fate hies. Your unblessed fate hurries. Strumpet, I come. Forth of my heart, those charms thine eyes are blotted. Thy bed, lust-stained, shall with lust's blood be spotted. Okay? Now, I want just to point out Shakespeare's amazing. Okay, so he's saying, I'm coming to her, she's a strumpet, I'm going to kill her. She stained the bed with lust, now it's going to be stained with her blood in punishment. But if you try to say those two lines, it takes you forever. They're clotted. They're difficult to say. They're slow and laborious and struggling. Forth of my heart, those charms thine eyes are blotted. Thy bed, lust-stained, shall with lust's blood be spotted. You just try to read those lines to yourself. And it takes, if you're going to say it right, it's going to take you a long time because it's just like walking over rocks, you know? It's a knotted, convoluted expression. Okay, that's the state of his mind. This knotted, convoluted, angry, vengeful.
It's interesting that, anytime there's a reference to, villainy or hell, it's all H's and ha.
Yeah.
Hell,
Right.
which is
Absolutely.
easier to say.
Yes. All right, at line...
Fall to, probably.
At line, Act 5, Scene 1, line 94, I just want to point out that Iago says to Gratiano, who's come from Venice, I cry you gentle pardon, these bloody accidents must excuse my manners that so neglected you. Neglected you. What does Gratiano mean? Grace and forgiveness. And so I neglected you. So this is Iago at the symbolic level, neglecting grace, but pretends not to. Okay, now Act 5, Scene 2. Does anybody need a break before we finish this play? Okay, go. I'll wait for you. We're going to read Act 5, Scene 2, which is the end of the play. While he's out, do you have questions?
Whatever happens to Iago?
Good question. I'll answer it in a minute.
Good. I could hardly wait.
And I'm stuck on, hot, and I can't remember which play, Too Hot. There's another play.
That's the next play we're going to read next week.
Oh, that's it? Okay, thank you.
The Winter's Tale.
I was racking.
Too hot, too hot.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And I tried actually doing a, search on whatever, and I didn't, but yeah.
Couldn't find too hot?
I didn't know two, so
Ah.
it was, yeah.
You were just thinking hot. Well, that'll send you everywhere.
Exactly.
So I have the benefit of the concordance to the Shakespeare's works. It's a great concordance to the Riverside edition. And it's got the lines quoted for every single word in Shakespeare except the 49 most common, like a and the and.
What I do sometimes is MIT Shakespeare.
Yeah.
You can put his entire.
Right. Well, that's
online
that's the same database. I think it's the same database. Okay.
comes in handy.
Yes. Act 5, Scene 2. Othello comes in with a light. Desdemona's asleep in the bed. The last speech Othello made was that clotted, difficult speech, right? Now, clear, smooth speech. It is the cause, my soul. Let me not name it to you, you chaste stars. It is the cause. Yet I'll not shed her blood, nor scar that whiter skin of hers than snow and smooth as monumental alabaster. Yet she must die, else she'll betray more men. Put out the light, and then put out the light. If I quench thee, he's looking at the candle, if I quench thee, thou flaming minister, I can again thy former light restore, should I repent me. But once put out thy light, Desdemona's light, thou cunningest pattern of excelling nature, I know not where is that Promethean heat that can thy light relume. When I have plucked thy rose, I cannot give it vital growth again. It needs must wither. I'll smell thee on the tree. I'm going to kiss her before I kill her. O balmy breath that dost almost persuade justice to break her sword. What does he think he's doing?
An injustice.
He's executing justice on Desdemona. He is justice itself.
He thinks he's executing mercy too.
Well, because she'll betray more men. That's one of his rationalizations.
One question.
Yes.
He, in allowing her to die in his mind, in a state of sin.
No, he's not.
No, he asked her.
Watch.
to pray.
Watch.
But she hasn't. I mean, because she was.
She's asleep still. She's asleep. So he's kissing her. One more, he kisses her. Be thus when thou art dead, and I will kill thee and love thee after. If you look like this when you're dead, I'll kill you and then I'll still love you. One more kiss, and that's the last. So sweet was ne'er so fatal. I must weep, but they are cruel tears. This sorrow's heavenly, it strikes where it doth love. Who strikes where he loves? Heavenly. God. Why does God strike? He strikes to test. He strikes to punish. He strikes because he loves, because he's trying to redeem. That's the nature of God. It's not the nature of man. We strike where we hate. But he's saying, this sorrow, my sorrow, is heavenly. It strikes where it doth love. He is justice. He is acting, playing God. She wakes. Who's there, Othello? I, Desdemona. Will you come to bed? Have you prayed tonight? Aye, my lord. If you bethink yourself of any crime unreconciled as yet to heaven and grace, solicit for it straight. That is, pray. Alack, my lord, what may you mean by that? Well, do it and be brief. I will walk by. I would not kill thy unprepared spirit. No, heavens forfend. I would not kill thy soul. How could he? He thinks he can by killing her before she repents for a crime she didn't do. But he's filled with his own self-importance here. Talk you of killing? I do. Then heaven have mercy on me. Amen, with all my heart. If you say so, I hope you will not kill me. Ha! And yet I fear you, for you're fatal then when your eyes roll so. Why I should fear I know not, since guiltless I know not. Since guiltiness I know not. But yet I feel I fear. Think on thy sins, he says. They are loves I bear to you. Aye, and for that thou diest. So there's a double meaning. My sins are the only sin I've committed is loving you. And he takes it as the loves, the other loves, the Cassio loves, that she has borne to him. She's carried to him this false love, as he interprets it. That death's unnatural that kills for loving. All right, peace and be still. Lord, have mercy on me. I say amen. You have mercy too. I never did offend you in my life, never loved Cassio, but with such general warranty of heaven as I might love, I never gave him token. Othello says, line 62, by heaven I saw my handkerchief in his hand. O perjured woman, thou dost stone my heart, and makes me call what I intend to do a murder, which I thought a sacrifice. I saw the handkerchief. Okay, they go on. Banish me, but do not kill me. Down, strumpet, kill me tomorrow. Let me live tonight. This horrible scene where he finally strangles her or suffocates her. Now, he's suffocated her. He says, what noise is this? Amelia's knocking at the door. Not dead, not yet quite dead. I that am cruel am yet merciful. I would not have thee linger in thy pain. He's putting her out of her misery like an animal. And there's noise at the door. Amelia within. What ho, my lord, my lord? Who's there? Oh, my good lord, I would speak a word with you. Now watch this speech. This is Othello's speech after he's killed Desdemona. You remember the speech before. Calm, easy, clear, poetical. I am justice. I am doing this for good reason, etc. Now watch how he talks. Yes, in line 92. Yes, 'tis Amelia. By and by, she's dead. 'Tis like she comes to speak of Cassio's death. The noise was high. Ha, no more moving, still is the grave. Shall she come in? Were it good? I think she stirs again. No. What's best to do? If she come in, she'll sure speak to my wife. My wife? My wife? What wife? I have no wife. Oh, insupportable. Oh, heavy hour. Methinks it should be now a huge eclipse of sun and moon, and that the affrighted globe did yawn at alteration. What is happening in this speech? What's it feel like?
He's realized what he's done.
No, not yet. I mean, he's killed her. My wife, what wife? I have no wife. True. But what's the quality of the speech itself? Do you see all those dashes? Chaotic, exactly right. So when I love thee not, chaos has come again. Now the chaos has come in his very language, and he's divided. He looks, it's Amelia, then he shouts to her by and by, then he looks at Desdemona, she's dead, then he thinks about Amelia, she's come to speak of Cassio, there was noise, now back to Desdemona, no more moving, still is the grave, then back to Amelia, shall she come in? I think she stirs again, back to Desdemona. What's best to do? She'll speak to my wife. My wife, what wife? I have no wife. And then, oh, insupportable, oh, heavy hour. What's his image? What's the metaphor? Methinks it should be now a huge eclipse of sun and moon. When did that happen? When? What's the most famous eclipse of sun and moon? That's right, the crucifixion. There's darkness at noon for 3 hours, right? And there's an earthquake, and the veil of the temple is rent, etc. All these astronomical events happening in response to this horrible act. And so what's he thinking about his own having killed Desdemona? It's a world-class event. It's a universal significance. I am justice, having killed this beautiful woman because she betrayed. I think the affrighted globe should yawn at alteration. Well, Amelia comes in, and Desdemona's not quite dead. She wakes up and she says, oh, falsely, falsely murdered. Help, ho, help, speak again. And Desdemona says, a guiltless death I die. Line 122 or so. Amelia, oh, who has done this deed? Okay, a guiltless death I die. Someone's killed me. Who's done it? Desdemona answers, nobody. I myself, farewell. Commend me to my kind lord. Oh, farewell. What does that say about her?
Let him off the hook.
She's forgiving Othello.
She loves him. She's forgiving him. She's protecting him. She's angelic. Why, how should she be murdered? Alas, who knows? You heard her say herself, it was not I. She said so, I must needs report the truth. Othello, she's like a liar gone to burning hell. 'Twas I that killed her. And Amelia says, oh, the more angel she, and you, the blacker devil. She turned to folly, and she was a whore. Thou dost belie her, and thou art a devil. She was false as water. Thou art rash as fire to say that she was false. She was heavenly true. Cassio did top her. Ask thy husband else. Oh, I were damned beneath all depth in hell, but that I did proceed upon just grounds to this extremity. Thy husband knew it all. My husband? And she repeats it 10 times. My husband, my husband. Why do you keep repeating that? He, woman, I say thy husband, dost understand the word? My friend, thy husband, honest, honest Iago. If he say so, may his pernicious soul rot half a grain a day. He lies to the heart. She was too fond of her most filthy bargain. Ha! Do thy worst. This deed of thine is no more worthy heaven than thou wast worthy her. Peace you were best. Thou hast not half the power to do me harm as I have to be hurt. O gull, she says to Othello. O dolt, as ignorant as dirt. Thou hast done a deed, I care not for thy sword. I'll make thee known, though I lost 20 lives. Help, ho, help, murder. So everybody, first Iago, and then everybody comes in. Villainy, 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 she says. And Iago tries to shut her up. Othello falls on the bed, just out of sadness. He doesn't realize. He gets up and says, she was foul, line 201. I scarce did know you, uncle, that's Montano. There lies your niece, whose breath indeed these hands have newly stopped. I know this act shows horrible and grim. I did kill her. She deserved it. It looks awful. And Graziano, whose name means grace and forgiveness, says a very interesting thing. At line 205. Poor Desdemona, he says, I am glad thy father's dead. Brabantio has died. Thy match, meaning marrying Othello, was mortal to him, and pure grief did shore his old thread in twain. He was cut short by grief. Did he live now, that is, if he were still alive, this sight would make him do a desperate turn, yea, curse his better angel from his side, and fall to reprobance. Now, what does that literally mean in the time? If he lived now, this sight would drive him to despair and make him do something desperate, namely, curse his better angel from his side and fall to reprobance, means damnation. In other words, he would commit suicide. He would kill himself in despair. That's what it means to curse his better angel from his side, who might keep him from doing something so desperate. And this is exactly what happens to Othello. All right. Emilia, finally, twill out. Iago draws and threatens Emilia. Graziano, your sword upon a woman? Emilia, oh, thou dull Moor, that handkerchief thou speakst of I found by fortune and did give my husband. For often with a solemn earnestness, more than indeed belonged to such a trifle, he begged of me to steal it. Villainous whore, he accuses his wife of the same thing that he got Othello to accuse Desdemona of, and she's not. She give it Cassio? No, alas, I found it and did give it my husband. He's calling her a liar. She says, no, I'm not. Oh, what should such a fool do with so good a wife? She keeps calling him fool, stupid, ignorant as dirt, dolt. Othello, are there no stones in heaven but what serves for the thunder? Precious villain. Like he finally gets it. The Moor runs at Iago with his sword but is disarmed. Iago stabs his own wife, Emilia.
One way to get her to shut up.
Montano, 'tis a notorious villain. And Iago has run out. So Emilia dies, and dies saying, she loved thee, cruel Moor. So come my soul to bliss as I speak true. So speaking as I think, alas, I die. Now, Iago's out of the picture. Othello knows the truth about Desdemona and about Iago. And now he has a choice to make. What's he going to do? It's no longer a matter of being seduced by the trickster Iago, the devil. He knows, he's had evidence, he's had ocular proof of Desdemona's forgiveness. Here's his speech. Behold, I have a weapon. He secretly always carries an additional weapon. A better never did itself sustain upon a soldier's thigh. I have seen the day that with this little arm and this good sword, I have made my way through more impediments than 20 times your stop. And I can get past you with this sword, no problem. But oh, vain boast, who can control his fate? Well, you can, right now. 'Tis not so now. Be not afraid, though you do see me weaponed. Here is my journey's end. Here is my butt and very sea mark of my utmost sail. That takes us back to that scene where he landed on shore and saw Desdemona, and it was an image of heaven, the meeting after a life of storm in heaven, yes? Do you go back dismayed? 'Tis a lost fear. You're wasting your fear. Man, but a rush against Othello's breast, and he retires. Where should Othello go? Now, how dost thou look now? Oh, ill-starred wench, he looks at Desdemona dead on the bed, pale as thy smock. When we shall meet at Compt, when we shall meet at the last judgment, this look of thine will hurl my soul from heaven, and fiends will snatch at it. Would Desdemona will that to be? No. Cold, cold, my girl, even like thy chastity. Oh, cursed, cursed slave! Whip me, ye devils, from the possession of this heavenly sight. Blow me about in winds, roast me in sulfur, wash me in steep down gulfs of liquid fire. Oh, Desdemona, dead, Desdemona, dead. Oh, oh. Okay, what are those images? Blow me about in winds. This is how Shakespeare knew Dante, right? I mean, it's an image. It's a common image, but it's an image also in Dante. Blow me about in winds, roast me in sulfur, wash me in steep down gulfs of liquid fire. So earth, air, fire, and water. Hell, in other words. The punishments of hell, using all the elements to evoke it. He's calling that on himself. He's imagining that she would send his soul to hell, when we know she wouldn't. Bring the villain forth, says Lodovico. And Othello says, at line 286, I look down towards his feet, but that's a fable. If that thou beest a devil, I cannot kill thee. And he stabs him. And he doesn't kill him. I look down towards his feet, but that's a fable. Means he's looking at his feet to see if he's got goat hooves, like the devil in all the pictures. If that thou beest the devil, I cannot kill thee. He doesn't kill him. Iago doesn't die. Why?
Because the devil lives on.
You cannot kill the devil. You can only shame the devil. I bleed, sir, but not killed, says Iago, and Othello says, I am not sorry neither. I'd have thee live, for in my sense 'tis a happiness to die. Naught I did in hate, but all in honor, he says at line 295. What shall be said to thee? Why, anything, an honorable murderer, if you will, for naught I did in hate, but all in honor. Whose honor? Was it honorable to kill his wife? What should he have done, even if she were guilty?
She should have forgiven her.
Confront her, get her to repent, and forgive her. This wretch hath part confessed his villainy. And he consent in Cassio's death? Aye. Dear General, says Cassio, who didn't die, I never gave you cause. I do believe it, and I ask your pardon. Will you, I pray, demand this demi-devil, meaning Iago, why he hath thus ensnared my soul and body? Oh, I'll tell you why. No, he won't. He's told us all already. Demand me nothing. What you know, you know. From this time forth, I never will speak word. What, says Lodovico, not to pray? Graziano, torments will ope your lips. And Othello says, well, thou dost best. It's better not to say anything. So Iago's not going to speak. You cannot get him to speak. You can't kill him. He's always there. They talk about Roderigo. Found a discontented paper in his pocket. Roderigo meant to have sent this damned villain. Belike Iago in the interim came in and satisfied him. How came you, Cassio, by that handkerchief? I found it in my chamber. Oh, fool, fool, fool. He means himself. Just what Emilia was saying about him. Iago made him brave upon the watch. Roderigo braved me upon the watch. Got him fighting. So here's what Lodovico says to Othello. And this is what should happen. You must forsake this room and go with us. Now, Othello can kill anybody here. Like, he's the fighter, right? He's not doing it. Your power and your command is taken off, and Cassio rules in Cyprus. For this slave, Iago, if there be any cunning cruelty that can torment him much and hold him long, it shall be his. That's the definition of hell. Right? Torment him much and hold him long. You shall close prison arrest till that the nature of your fault be known to the Venetian state. Come, bring away. Now, what should Othello do? Now.
Surrender and be brought to justice.
Exactly right. He should go to his knees, repent, be brought to justice. If they want to execute him, fine. If they don't, put him in jail, put him in penance, whatever.
Try to redeem whatever reputation.
Redeem whatever is left. Not so much of his reputation, because that is in fact ruined, not by Desdemona's behavior, but by his own.
Right, but he talked about the reputation he had.
Yes. All right, now, here's what he says instead. Soft you, hang on. A word or two before you go. I have done the state some service, and they know it. No more of that. I pray you, in your letters, when you shall these unlucky deeds relate, speak of me as I am, nothing extenuate, nor set down aught in malice. Then must you speak of one that loved not wisely, but too well. Now let's think about that for a minute. Is that true? No. If he'd loved Desdemona better, he would not have allowed Iago to hint that she should be suspected. So he was not only unwise, but insufficiently loving. Of one not easily jealous, but being wrought perplexed in the extreme. Of one whose hand like the base Judean threw a pearl away richer than all his tribe. There's that word tribe. Now, the editors have a field day. I'll take 2 minutes to explain this. I told you there were two early texts, the quarto and the folio. And one of them has Judean, the folio. And the other has Indian. Now, you can make Judean into Indian by taking the U and turning it upside down. And you can make Indian into Judean by taking the U and turning it upside down. So one of the two typesetters goofed. And the editors argue about which it was. So they have all kinds of reasons why the base Indian makes sense. And they have all kinds of reasons why the base Judean makes sense. I believe that Shakespeare wrote Judean because I think he's referring to Judas, the base Judean, who threw a pearl away richer than all his tribe, meaning betrayed Christ and threw him away richer than all the tribe of the Jews. The base Indian was just too ignorant to know that the jewel was valuable, so he threw it away, not realizing what it was. I don't think that's what Othello means here. And of course, we know how Judas ends, right? Okay, so, of one whose hand, like the base Judean, threw a pearl away richer than all his tribe, of one whose subdued eyes, albeit unused to the melting mood, drops tears as fast as the Arabian trees their medicinable gum. I'm not used to crying, but I'm crying here. Set you down this, and say besides, that in Aleppo once, where a malignant and a turbaned Turk, meaning an infidel, beat a Venetian and traduced the state, I took by the throat the circumcised dog and smote him thus. And he stabs himself. Oh, bloody period, meaning end of the speech, says Ludovico and Graziano. All that is spoke is marred. Everything that he said is ruined by this. So what does Othello think he's doing? As he took that turbaned Turk by the throat and killed him for traducing a Venetian, for beating a Venetian and traducing the state, so he thinks he is killing himself because he has harmed the Venetian Desdemona. He's punishing himself for having killed Desdemona. Okay, so a lot of modern readers of this play think that's very heroic and noble, and he's rising to this great level of classical suicide. But this is a Christian play in a Christian world. And Othello is an only partly Christianized Moor. What he's really doing is killing the Venetian, his soul, as if he were the Turk. What does this mean? Killing, yes, that's right. He's not going to go to heaven. He is sending himself to hell. That's why that Graziano line is so important about Brabantio earlier. But let's just look at the situation. He has killed Desdemona thinking he's justice and righteousness in doing so. Then he finds out it was a mistake, an error. He was wrong. He knows he's wrong now to have killed Desdemona. Has he learned a lesson about his own certainty, about his own pride, about his own willingness to act as the judge? No, he has not. Because instead of going down on his knees and repenting, he takes it upon himself to kill himself, to send his own soul to hell. So that now there's no question of Iago. Nobody's tempting him here. It's his own will. And he has refused to learn about his fallibility. He's learned about his error, but he hasn't learned that he is fallible. He still thinks he's above judgment, all judgment but his own.
Playing God.
He plays God. He plays God with his own soul. So that, although in popular imagination for all the time I was studying in graduate school and beyond, people were arguing about his heroism. We know he's been heroic in the past. They have ignored the Christian theme of the play, which is that though he has been baptized and converted to Christianity in his externals, he has not learned it inside. He remains a pagan. He remains, in fact, a Turk. He is the Turk, killing the Venetian his soul, and the end of the play, the end of his life, unless there's some special grace in God, inspired by the soul of Desdemona, he's damned. He damns himself. And as I've said to you, this makes the second of the damned protagonists of Shakespeare's four greatest mid-period tragedies, right? Lear and Hamlet finally are redeemed, and Macbeth and Othello are finally damned. Macbeth for sure, because he's in hell before he even dies, and Othello most probably. "Oh, bloody period," says Lodovico, end of the speech. "All that is spoke is marred," says Gratiano. And then Othello says, last words, "I kissed thee ere I killed thee, no way but this, killing myself to die upon a kiss." That's why I think he wrote base Judean, because how does Judas betray Christ? That kiss. "Oh, Spartan dog," says Lodovico to Iago, "more fell than anguish, hunger, or the sea. Look on the tragic loading of this bed. This is thy work. The object poisons sight. Let it be hid." All right, and then he gives the government to Cassio. He gives to Montano, or maybe to Cassio, the judgment of this hellish villain, Iago. "The time, the place, the torture, oh, enforce it. Myself will straight aboard to the state, this heavy act with heavy heart relate." So Iago remains alive, going to be punished and tortured, but can't be killed. And this is, again, an implication of the metaphorical significance of Iago as a demon, as a devil, permanently existing and always a temptation. And the fate of Othello is the fate of the man who, at first seduced by that devil, finally is left to his own choice. So that Shakespeare preserves Othello's free will and shows us a man making that free will choice to his own destruction. Incapable of true penitence, incapable of surrender of his will to the higher will, and demanding that his end be on his own terms. And this means he has not learned from his own horrible error. He has not learned not to trust Iago, and he's not learned not to trust himself. He finally learns not to trust Iago, but he doesn't learn not to trust himself. Okay, questions? Yes?
So, thinking of Iago and why he did what he did, I mean, we talked about kind of the weak justifications that he...
Yes, his motives.
His motives.
Motiveless
so to
motives.
speak. But maybe he is motiveless, and that's even worse, right?
Well, it's worse.
He's just a nihilist.
Yeah, is it worse to be motiveless if you're Iago than to have a motive? So, yes, he's a nihilist for sure. He's a negator of everything.
Yeah.
The motivelessness, all the motives he adduces for us are motives of envy or jealousy. He wants Cassio's job. He suspects Othello with Amelia. He suspects Cassio with Amelia. He's simply a destroyer, a kind of embodiment of envy. So there is a motive there, but the motive is itself the purpose. There's no external motive. There's nothing that evokes jealousy or envy from him. He projects it onto the world. And that is the demonic mission, right?
Yeah,
To destroy, to negate everything. And he can do that in a man who worships his own self-image. So that it's almost as if envy plays upon pride.
Mm-hmm.
If there were no pride in Othello, the envy in Iago wouldn't work.
Yeah, wouldn't be susceptible to it.
Correct.
But I guess, thinking, again, in kind of contemporary terms,
Yes.
there are people who, con men. I mean, Iago's a con man
Yes, he is.
who do it, whether they're to feed their own ego or overcome their own insecurities. I mean, they're not noble goals, but they are goals that I can sort of understand, as opposed to just pure destruction.
Well, that's true. I mean, they're all those levels. I mean, the con man is out to make money at other people's expense. He's not an Iago necessarily,
Right.
although he's a liar. But there are other people who are out to ruin and destroy because they cannot imagine the good. They cannot believe in a good that isn't as poisonous as they themselves are.
Sounds like a liberal to me.
And therefore they must
Sounds like a conservative to me.
they must destroy
To me.
in order to justify their own existence. They must destroy the thing that to them pretends to be virtue. And that's why Iago must destroy Desdemona as well as Othello, because she embodies the goodness that he can't bear.
Yeah, he just takes everybody down.
Now, this is straight out of Christian theological thought. It's one of the great insights in Dante, and the insight of a great saint that he's following, is that hell is simply the existence of God as experienced by those who have rejected God. And those who have rejected God, the demons, cannot bear the presence of God. It's too painful. It burns them. It is hellfire, because it tortures them that this is what their true hope was, and they have abandoned it or rejected it. So people imitating that, people governed by this kind of demonic aspect of the potential of human beings, they cannot bear the good to be revealed. They cannot bear the person who is good. They've got to tear him down. They've got to undermine. They've got to show that he's got feet of clay. They cannot stand there to be a virtuous hero, because it shames them. It makes them, it puts them in pain because they have rejected faith in that, and therefore to see it is to feel the torment of failure, of wrongness, of error, of self-destruction. They can't do that. So the energy is devoted to tearing this down. And don't tell me it's only liberals or only conservatives. It's anybody and everybody. We all tend to do this. And it takes a lot of doctrine and a lot of parenting and a lot of practice to correct oneself from that temptation. Lori, you had a question.
I did. I'm still confused by when Iago wrestles with the fact that he isn't doing this out of evil things. He says that there's a speech.
Wait, who are we talking about?
Iago.
Iago.
He has a speech where he says, well, this is really for their good, and I'm really doing this.
Oh no, but then he changes. In that speech, he says, who says I'm a villain? I'm doing this for good, for good. But then in the middle of the speech, he says, divinity of hell,
Yes.
that was all fake. I'm really doing it out of this destructive.
So there was, I thought
Yeah,
maybe
the
he
speech,
had-
read the speech again, you'll see. Where he says divinity of hell is the turning point in the
I
speech.
thought maybe even very evil people have a need to feel they're not all that evil. Is that really
Yeah, well, yeah, very evil people who are still people do, but demons don't.
Right.
They're totally committed.
He's just being transactional as someone.
Transaction. Other questions? Yes.
So, but Iago, I mean, he got pretty darn far, right? I mean, he was a warrior, a successful warrior. Everybody thought he was honest. I mean, he had a pretty darn good career.
Oh yeah, he got what he
Up
wanted.
to a point.
He got what he wanted.
Well, he
So-
didn't rise to the level, I mean, he was an ensign, not
He wasn't happy with
you know,
what he had.
lieutenant.
But did he get there through, all of this evil, or did he, play it straight and earn it?
I don't think he ever played it straight, except in soliloquy to us.
Then he is like manipulating.
He's manipulating constantly. He's manipulating everyone.
He's being, you know.
But in his battle, I think he was a decent soldier. It said he didn't like Cassio getting the job because he knew what it was
Yeah,
like to
that
fight in the
would
field.
be hard.
Yes, but that's Iago talking. Why are you believing him? Cassio's not just a bean counter and a creditor and debtor.
I'm not believing him, I'm questioning him. That's all.
He's
Repentance.
what?
There's never any repentance.
No, there's never any repentance
Because
in
I
him.
was thinking there was a film 15 years ago or 20, Glenn Close, Jeremy Irons, and they play this horrible role of he's going to seduce this innocent, very religious young woman. And then at the end, when the woman kills herself, the lover kills himself, and she's left with this, and this face of sort of,
Triumph.
no.
Oh.
She recognizes
Oh.
her sin.
Oh, so
And
she has
the end-
conscience.
I don't know if it's conscience or horror.
Yes. Well, conscience leads to the horror of it. If you have a conscience, you recognize it as horror. I wanted to say that in becoming the Turk at the end, Othello has become Iago. He has destroyed his own soul more thoroughly than Iago. So he's become the Iago to himself, in a sense. That's what that wedding predicted. And when he said, "I am your own forever," that's what that turned out to be true. Not because Iago caused it in the end, but because Othello chose it in the end. That's the free will that Othello has at the end. No Iago in the picture anymore when he makes that final decision. So, and that's the decision of pride. And that is the danger for all of us. We are constantly tempted. We are constantly having to make choices. We're constantly challenged to have faith in the good and mistrust ourselves as not being qualified to make these judgments on the souls of others or of ourselves. And we're always failing at it and having to repent. And that's the horror of this play is to scare us into humility, to scare us out of the kind of pride that makes Othello vulnerable to Iago. And of course, the power of Iago is very great, very intellectual, very great. And so it's not an easy, it's not an easy thing to
As a
resist.
lawyer, lying doesn't make any difference.
Yes.
That solves the problem.
And he says so. He says so in the beginning. I'm just going to serve him to use my turn on him, to use him to my advantage.
So obviously it's got through the censors and all, but there was no, like academic critics or something opining on the meaning of the play. But what kind of reaction did it get? Were people horrified, or did they take this as a...
Well, they knew it was a tragedy going in. It's called The Tragedy of Othello. They were instructed as well as moved the way we are. I don't think there was there wasn't any political threat in it or theological danger here. And they were used to scary stories about the damned. That wasn't, that was not news. So no, I don't think there was any kind of negative critical reaction. People thought it was a great play, or they wouldn't have printed it.
Yeah.
Was there any issues with the racial component?
No, not in Shakespeare's time. There were very few blacks in England. There were blacks, but not many. But, racial prejudice was not a concept of the time.
But
There was.
blackness was associated with sin, and whiteness
Absolutely.
was associated with purity.
Absolutely. So what I want to say about Othello is he had the opportunity to make his soul white, though his face was black, and he chose to make his soul as black as his face. And that choice is why I say Shakespeare's not a racist, because he gives Othello that choice. He shows, the villain is a white guy, right? Iago. The black man is in the center. He is man. And he has this choice. And he has the choice between Desdemona and Iago. And then at the end, he has the choice between being God or not being God. And he chooses wrongly. Not because he's black, but because he has free will and he is consumed with pride.
Egotistical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see a lot of parallels with, and it's, a very different kind of play, but, and a comedy, but much ado, with,
Sure.
there are a lot of parallels with, John and.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, the villain Iago is an extension of all those bad guys we've seen in the earlier plays. Don John being a perfect example. And Don John is perfectly an embodiment of envy, too, in that play. But, of course, they're saved from the disaster by the watch. The low-life guys who don't know what they're doing, but they catch them. And so it turns everything around because it's a comedy. Here, it's a tragedy.
Hero's not really dead.
And Hero's not really dead, right. I just want to point out, next week we're going to talk about The Winter's Tale. And in The Winter's Tale, we're also going to have a jealous husband, but it's going to be, the whole Iago story will be contained in an instant of invisible suddenness. So everything we spent time on tonight on Act 3, Scene 3 of that whole seduction is just going to be, boom, it happens.
But in Winters, and we'll get, but he doesn't have an external, Iago figure. It's all just
That's right.
imagination.
That's exactly what I'm going to say. That the Iago of this play becomes completely internalized and invisible, and it's just boom. He's got this affectio, and then it goes equally suddenly. But we'll talk about that next week.